The 1990 Interstate 75 fog disaster was one of the deadliest traffic disasters in Tennessee's history. When it occurred, the I-75 disaster, in terms of the number of cars involved, was the worst traffic accident in United States history at the time. On the 10-mile section of Interstate 75 that runs from mile marker 29 to mile marker 39 through Bradley and McMinn counties, you could easily wind up in the worst fog you've ever witnessed. Oftentimes, this fog appears with no warning and rapidly blinds anyone in the area. This piece of interstate is located about 40 miles northeast of Chattanooga and 70 miles southwest of Knoxville. Your first question might be, why does this area of interstate have such bad fog? Well, as it turns out, there are a few reasons why. See, this stretch of road sits in between two ridges that house the Hiwassee River below. Many different creeks run into the Hiwassee in the area, and the Chickamauga Dam downriver has created lakes in the area as well. Additionally, a paper mill is operated on the north bank of the Hiwassee River. As if those factors weren't enough, the coup de grace is that the bridge that crosses the Hiwassee sits at one of the lowest elevations on Tennessee's interstate system. All of these factors combine for a good chance that you'll catch a nasty fog when driving through. This section of I-75 wasn't always there, however. In 1973, the first traffic was allowed to drive over this newly built area of interstate, and since its inception, the road has held nothing but death. Over the next 15 years, there were several accidents and even a couple of massive pileups. Each one seemed to be one of the worst disasters in Tennessee history. That is, until the 1990 I-75 pileup. On December 11th, 1990, at about 9 a.m., a tractor-trailer slowed down in the southbound lanes of I-75 near exit 36. The truck was about 1 mile from the Hiwassee bridges. The first tractor-trailer was slammed into by another one blinded by the fog that failed to slow down. Both drivers were not injured, but exited their trucks. This is when the disaster began. A fast-moving sedan struck the back of the second truck, which started a mini pileup that included 3 cars and started a fire that morning. Then, the northbound lane began piling up. A passenger car had slowed to look at the accident on the southbound lane, but was immediately hit by another car, which was then struck by a pickup truck. Over the next several minutes, a chain reaction of accidents occurred that ended with 99 vehicles piling up and 12 deaths. Crashes were setting off explosions and fires in every direction. It seemed like a war zone at the time, all encased in this thick fog that you couldn't escape. About 15 minutes into the pileup, a responding police officer reached the scene. The accident was still going on as he pleaded for the interstate to be closed. It took over 200 rescue personnel, some coming from as far as Knoxville, to safely secure the accident and take the patients to the proper hospitals. Naturally, an investigation was started into why this pileup occurred. Survivors of the pileup described the fog as appearing rapidly and like putting a blanket over their windshield. The fog was also described as unnaturally thick, so thick that visibility was literally zero. One witness claimed he couldn't see the bridge he was standing under. Oddly, those there towards the beginning of their accident claimed that there was no fog initially, and then suddenly visibility was zero. Almost 2 years later, the NTSB said the cause of the accident was drivers responding to the loss of visibility by operating their vehicles at varying speeds. So they recommended TDOT install fog detection systems and also install warning systems for that stretch of road. But why was the fog so bad that morning? Why did it act unnaturally? Well, 2 different theories began to emerge. The obvious theory is that the paper plant, Bowater, caused this unnatural fog due to its settling ponds. The other theory was from a meteorologist that said the fog was caused by temperature inversion, which is a fancy way of saying that the temperature had varied by over 30 degrees since the day prior. According to the NTSB report on Bowater's guilt in the matter, they said that their settling ponds and steam from their plant both contributed, but they couldn't prove to what degree. Interestingly, A study conducted by the U.S. Department of Energy in 1981 concluded that the Bowater paper mill caused fog to be 3 times more likely in the area. A couple years prior to that study, the University of Tennessee conducted a study that concluded that Bowater contributed to the fog in the area, but couldn't say to what degree until another study was ordered. So, the state ordered another study, but then it was mysteriously canceled after rumors that Bowater pressured the state politically to stop any more studies done in the area. I feel like I've seen this story played out over and over. I think it's clear that Bowater was responsible for the thicker-than-normal fog that occurred in the area. And because they were able to throw their political weight around and pay off politicians, more people died. It's a tale as old as time. Bowater denied any responsibility for the crash in 1990, instead blaming the state. But Bowater did settle out of court for $10 million to the families of those who died that day. The state of Tennessee also settled after the crash and agreed to change its safety systems entirely. The road where the accident occurred was restriped with extra markings and reflectors. A $5 million fog detection system was installed in 1993. The system monitors 3 miles of the interstate north and south of the Hiwassee River and contains 9 forward scatter sensors, 14 microwave radar vehicle detectors, and 21 CCTV cameras. The state also installed and connected this warning system to a series of electronic gates that block access to the interstate from entrance ramps near the area. These systems are also monitored to show the current speed limit of the area, which is altered as the fog gets worse. As I said earlier, this would go down as one of the worst accidents in the history of Tennessee, as well as the worst pileup in the history of the United States at the time. Sadly, these families died because of the Bowater paper mill. Perhaps one day we can be strong enough to end the corporate destruction of our lands.